Hey y'all. This video is intended to overview using the RJ Plus editor in Jamovi to use code within R. I'm sorry, to use R code within Jamovi in case you missed class. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of briefly overview some key parts of using R, and then you have the activity that you can follow along with that has some activities for you. So the reason we're going to use R is that R itself, like Jamovi, is free. It is open source, and it's actually what's running in the background of Jamovi. But what we're going to do is actually write commands in R rather than use the drop-down menus. The drop-down menus tell Jamovi what to do in R, basically. And it's a little bit more limited. Yes, we can do some modifications to our analyses, like we can make it one-tailed or two-tailed. We can change the alpha level. But truly using R gives you a lot more flexibility, and it's not limited to just statistical analysis. So this I'm using as a way to introduce you to our language. And one of the nice things about doing that in Jamovi is that we can make changes using the drop-down menu to our variables and have a little bit more control, a little bit more, I want to say, guardrails to keep you from doing the wrong thing. Because working in R itself right away it's a little bit easier to make mistakes, and which I've learned the hard way. And I think there's a benefit to kind of learning it inside Jamovi. So just to give you some information, I already showed you how to install the modules, so you should already have that. But I'm going to click on this RJ Plus editor right here, and I'm going to choose the editor plus. The plus just gives us this variable view right here. And so you can see that we have our variables here. If we want to move them into our R environment, which is what we would refer to it in for, refer to it as in RStudio, we can move our variables here. So it tells us these are the variables that we're looking at. We could just use the ones that we're actually going to use for our activity. So we could just move, we could just have gender and job satisfaction here, a little bit less to look at. And then the results are here as well. So just like in using, Jamovi with our point and click, we can see the results here. Now, this is summary data. This is a command. And so what you do is you tell R that it has these different objects, which include variables. They can be other things too, but you say you have this in your environment. Tell me about it. Summarize it. So the command here is giving us summary statistics for our data set, which is called data by default here. When you open new data sets in R, you can name them different things and make them an object in R. But we're just going to use this data is the name of our data set. So you can see here that it automatically identified, because we set it up this way in our data, that woman, or rather gender, is a categorical variable. And so it's not trying to get a mean and a standard deviation and all of that. Whereas job satisfaction is set up as continuous. And so it's giving us a median and a mean. It doesn't give us standard deviation, but we can get that other ways. So this is just what it automatically starts with, as this summary. So something that is very useful to use, especially as you're getting used to R, and I use it all the time when I'm writing R scripts and want to keep them as templates, is I'll make little notes to myself. And so you can use a pound sign to take notes. So just do a pound sign at the start, or actually later in the line. I'll show you some examples of that later on. But you can say that this is how you take notes. And it turns green, and that tells you that the computer is not going to try and run this. It's not a command. So what we're doing is we're when we write out information, like when we write out summary data, we're commanding R to do this calculation for us. So by adding the pound sign in front of it, we're telling R that we don't want it to run a command, that this is just notes that we're taking. Whereas if I took that out and I tried to run this command, R would be like, whoa, I no longer work. What's happening? I've got unexpected symbols. I've got text. What are you trying to do to me? And it kind of gets a little unhappy here, as you can see. So I'm just going to put my pound sign back, and I can just go ahead and run that again. And now it's nice and clean and pretty again. So there's some different things that you should know. First of all, there's a lot of different variables that you can have in different data types. You can have numeric, you can have character, you can have logicals, um, and so like you can have logical operators. And then we're going to be using, we're really focusing on variables, but you can also do things like basic math. So I could say, let's say that I wanted to calculate. I'm going to calculate some, I'm going to calculate some numbers. Let's see. I want to know what 8 times 20 times 2 is. And I can run that by clicking this little green button right here. It says run. I can also do this Command Shift Enter. So Command Shift Enter or return. And it tells me that the answer to my number here is 8 times 20 times 10. The answer is 320. I can also create an object from that. So again, you create these objects and you can assign different things to them. Like you can assign, like a variable is treated as an object, but I could assign this actual value as an object. So I could say number, and I'm going to assign an object by doing this little arrow and a dash. Um, You can also use an equal sign. I like to use this because it's telling me that I'm creating an object, but let's say that my cursor was being weird, sorry. Let's say that I want to make that what number is. And so I'm going to say this 8 times 20 times 2. And if I run this, it's going to store number as this value of 320. It's going to store it as this calculation here. So then if I say number 2, and I'm going to create another one, and you don't need spaces. If you like putting spaces between things, you can, just if it looks cleaner for you. I tend to use spaces, I think, more. So number 2, I can assign it as this is going to be 100. And again, I'm gonna run this to assign my object. And I'm gonna say, what is number times number 2? And if I do my Command Shift Enter, it treats those as assigned values. So I assigned this value to number, this value to number 2. And then because it now has stored those objects, I was able to multiply number and number 2, and I got this value. So this can be really helpful to create objects out of different calculations. I did in class, I created an object from the means in a data set so I could then use that to build my bar graph. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but that's just something important to know about R is that you can create these objects and that it looks at these objects to um, make calculations and do other things. So we can store objects. And I can just press enter to create more lines. So you can see I have different lines there that I'm creating. So I was just pressing enter to create some new lines. You can also you can work with you can create new variables. I'm not going to worry about that right now. You can also manage your missing data. You can get all sorts of descriptive statistics. So since we're focusing on getting statistics right now, we're going to say I could get the mean. And the way that you refer to data, refer to variables, is that you need to identify the name of the data set, which is just data, and then use a dollar sign, and then you give the name of the variable or the column name. So if I wanted to get the mean of job satisfaction, notice that it gives me it gives me all the variables, but I want the variables that are in this variable box right here. I want to get the mean of job satisfaction. And so I can choose that from that little list that R gave me. I can also just type this out, but what I'm doing is I'm telling it, get the mean of the variable job satisfaction that is in this data set. So I can run that. and it will give me the mean of job satisfaction. So there's a lot of different basic calculations that you can do. You can get the median by saying median. You can get the mode by saying mode. You can get the standard deviation by SD. Variance is VAR. There's a lot of different ones that you can do. And you can also create frequency tables. So let's see what happens if we do a table, and then let's do table for gender. Oops. Data, $ gender, and I can run that. And it's going to give me the frequencies for that variable. So there's a lot of different things you can do there. You're not going to memorize them all necessarily, but you can find this information to figure out what to do. So then you can also do more complicated things, like we're going to do t-tests and ANOVAs, et cetera, et cetera. You can do power analysis. You can do very fancy power analysis in R. You can do really fantastic data visualization. So you can make amazing graphs. We will use R to make some graphs because Jamovi's graphing capabilities are kind of sad. And so I'll show you how to make APA style graphs in R. And then we'll do some data manipulation later in the semester. So for right now, I just want you to notice that if you do not correctly work with your data in Jamovi, that's going to create problems in R. So let's say that I decided for some reason that gender was continuous. I can go to my data over here, and I'm going to make gender continuous over here. And just like with Jamovi, if I want to click back over into my results, I can just click there and it'll take me back. And you see how it disappeared? Our table disappeared. It no longer has gender in it. It's because it's seeing it as a number, and so it doesn't think you need a frequency table. So it's not going to do the things you need it to do. And if I made job satisfaction nominal, you would see the same thing here. So if I make job satisfaction, if I make that nominal, it's like, oh, you want a frequency table? No, I don't, Jamovi R. I do not want that one bit. So you need to make sure that those are set up correctly. But again, it kind of has some, we can change this a little bit more easily without more code. So as you're getting used to it, that is a good option. So I'll change this back to nominal. So with this, this is something that we're going to get practice with in different ways. What I would like you to do is, if you missed class, just go through and try and use the different commands to complete the exercise. So you have a bunch of different code examples. And so the main thing is that you're really going to have to think about, okay, data underscore vector is actually referring to the name of the data set, and then I need to do $ and do the and then do the name of the variable. So do your best on that activity and then reach out if you have any questions, and I will have some different videos on R as we go throughout the semester.